Welcome to the Global Warwatch Network. Hey, before we jump in, if you like what we do here, do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. It's truly the best way to support our work and stay in the loop. Okay, so picture this. Deep within the Venezuelan jungle, there's this incredibly sophisticated shield of Russian-made steel, and Western intelligence agencies are still scrambling to map it all out. So the big question is this a sovereign defense system, or has Moscow basically turned Caracas into a permanent forward operating base? Today, we're peeling back the layers on Russia's most advanced air defense exports. All right, let's get into it. For years now, Venezuela, with a ton of help from Russia and China, has been building up what they proudly call the Bolivarian Shield. The whole idea was to create this formidable integrated air defense system, or IADS. You can think of it as a massive multi-layered bubble, basically a no-fly zone on steroids, designed to make it incredibly difficult for any foreign power to operate in their airspace. And at the very heart of the system is a layered defense network built almost entirely with Russian hardware. For the really long-range threats, they have the S-300VM, which is designed to take out aircraft and missiles from way, way out. For medium-range targets, there's the Buk MR2E, a system that even battle-hardened pilots have called a major threat. And for close-in, point defense, they use the Pantsir-S1. And tying it all together, Russian-made Su-30 Mk2 fighters, meant to give them control of the skies. But, all that Russian muscle is pretty useless without a good pair of eyes. And for that, Venezuela turned to China. They acquired a whole suite of Chinese radar systems, including the JY-27A, which China actually marketed as a so-called anti-stealth radar. The plan was to create this really dense surveillance network, feeding all that crucial data back into a unified command center. So when you put it all together, the strategy was pretty straightforward. Just make any potential intervention so costly in terms of both aircraft and personnel that no one would dare try. It was all about raising that military and political price tag so high that Washington would just decide it's not worth the risk. Yeah, exactly. But a fortress like this doesn't just build itself, right? You need powerful friends, powerful patrons. And in Venezuela's case, while both Russia and China have been propping up the regime, they've been playing very, very different games. Russia's strategy seems to be all about geopolitical disruption. They're using Venezuela as an asymmetric shield, a way to challenge the United States right in its own backyard. This is a classic move from the Primakov doctrine. You meddle in our neighborhood, we'll establish a presence in yours. China, on the other hand, is playing a much more pragmatic economic game. Their partnership is designed to secure one thing above all else: access to Venezuela's absolutely massive oil reserves. And when we say it's about economics for China, the scale of their involvement is just staggering. We're talking about over $60 billion in oil-backed loans. This financial lifeline has been absolutely instrumental in keeping the Venezuelan economy from totally collapsing, all while guaranteeing a steady flow of cheap crude oil back to China. Russia's financial footprint, while smaller, has been much more targeted. Their loans add up to around $17.9 billion, and that money is funneled primarily into joint energy ventures and, of course, weapons purchases. So while China has been acting like a giant creditor, Russia has focused on being a direct investor, embedding its own state-owned companies deep inside Venezuela's energy sector. So on paper, you've got this seriously impressive fortress backed by two world powers. It looks impenetrable. But what if it's all an illusion? Let's explore the potential cracks that are starting to appear in this steel shield. Well, one of the biggest potential problems is what some analysts are calling the Ukraine drain. Just imagine this scenario playing out. The war in Ukraine puts a massive strain on Russia's military-industrial complex. By 2024, technical specialists in Venezuela are getting recalled to support the war effort. By 2025, critical spare parts for those S-300 and Buk systems are being diverted for Russia's own use. Suddenly, if a conflict were to erupt in, say, 2026, Venezuela's entire air defense network could face a catastrophic failure. And here's a really interesting take on that. Some analysts have suggested that Moscow might even deliberately let these systems in Venezuela fall apart. The thinking is that the Kremlin, already bogged down in Ukraine, simply couldn't afford an escalation with the US that a downed jet might trigger. In that sense, Caracas could become a disposable pawn in a much larger game.
And there are already reports that suggest a systemic collapse is well underway. We're hearing that key components are just sitting in storage, not even deployed. That the Venezuelan military just doesn't have the deep expertise to operate these complex systems without constant Russian supervision. Add to that the corrosive tropical humidity and the potential for a sophisticated electronic warfare attack, and that shield could be left completely naked. But what if the conventional shield fails? Well, it looks like Moscow and Caracas have a plan B. If they can't stop an invasion, they might try to turn it into a bloody, protracted insurgency. It's a major shift from a high-tech fortress to a low-tech quagmire.
And the primary weapon for this new asymmetric shield? It's the Russian-made Igla-S. Venezuela has reportedly acquired around 5,000 of these man-portable air defense systems, or MANPADS. The plan seems to be to distribute them to loyalist forces to make low-altitude airspace incredibly dangerous for helicopters and drones in any potential conflict.
So, what's the blueprint here? First, you train the forces. Russian private military companies have reportedly been training pro-regime militias. Second, you arm these irregulars with thousands of those MANPADS. Third, you create chaos in the streets to turn urban centers into grinding quagmires. And the ultimate goal? A drawn-out conflict that would make any long-term stabilization effort an absolute nightmare.
So what's the legacy of this fortress illusion and this potential shift to an insurgency strategy? The geopolitical fallout is significant, and it really forces us to reevaluate the complex relationship between a great power and its client state.
I mean, it really all boils down to this one big question, doesn't it? When you look at the evidence, the potential for equipment decay, the strategic calculations around Ukraine, you have to ask, was Venezuela ever a true partner to Russia, or has it always been a disposable proxy, a tool to be used and then potentially discarded?
There are 4 really key takeaways from this whole situation. First, any failure of these systems would severely damage the global brand of Russian air defense. Second, it's a stark lesson on the limits of proxy relationships. Third, it highlights a potential shift towards insurgency as the go-to strategy for weaker states. And finally, for now at least, it could reaffirm U.S. operational dominance in the Western Hemisphere.
And that leaves us with one final, provocative thought to chew on. With the conventional shield looking so fragile, could a Russian-backed insurgency actually be the real deterrent? We want to thank you all so much for your time and for joining us for this analysis. And hey, if you found this valuable, please hit that like button, share it, and of course, subscribe to the Global Warwatch Network. It really does help us continue to bring you this content.
Absolutely, and we really do want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments section below and come join our community on social media. All the links are right there in the description.